the methodical study of the structure and behavior of the physical world, often through the scientific method, is called systematic study. Three key aspects of this are: if a hypothesis is scientific, there must be a way to prove it wrong through testing. Science is self-correcting. Theories are constantly refined or even discarded when new evidence emerges. Claims must be supported by measurable, objective data.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Police arrived at the house and they found the door open to the kitchen, sliding glass door. The thermostat was 12 feet away, 15 feet away, and it was 28 degrees at that night in that outside. How did 28-degree air coming through that wide open door not keep the thermostat pumping that house full of heat? Here's the thing about the second floor. Found open when police arrived at noon. I have a photograph that shows the thermostat in the kitchen. It's next to the refrigerator, kind of in the hallway between the fridge and Dylan's room. And it suggests that the thermostat was 69 degrees. It was 68 or 69. It's very hard to tell, but that's what it suggests. Now, anybody who's lived in a cold climate, I think you guys are, where are you guys in? LA, in California, right? No, 1-1, you're in New York. You know.
Yeah, I'm in New York, yeah.
I can tell you right now everything about the weather that night. At 4 o'clock in the morning, it was 28 degrees. I think it was 82% relative humidity. I can tell you the moon illumination. I can tell you the fog. I tell you everything. I got the full report of that. It was 28 degrees at 4 o'clock in the morning. 28 degrees. If the thermostat is approximately 12 feet from that open door in a 3-story house, that means that thermostat was running full blast from 4 o'clock in the morning, from 4:17 in the morning, 4:20 in the morning, until police arrived at noon. It's 28 degrees outside in Idaho, and the sliding glass door is wide open, meaning the thermostat is reading the cold air coming in through the sliding glass door. That thing is going to be pumping heat for 8 hours. Fair enough?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And, you know, as more and more things keep coming out, I think back to that scientific method. And that is, you got to keep testing things as you get more information. If you get information that sends you in another direction, then your old hypothesis no longer work, especially if new evidence presents itself that goes against it. However, when more and more evidence comes out that continues to back up what you have hypothesized, then you have to really start focusing in on so many things around that. And that's what I continue to do in this case every single day. And when I say we're getting closer and closer to the truth, I mean we're getting closer and closer to the truth. In the opening of this video, we got some verification of some information that has perplexed some experts in this thing. As you heard Mr. Whitcomb state over multiple interviews, something he continues to state over and over, is the backsliding door of the house being wide open for all those hours. It's 10 to 15 feet from a thermostat that was set at 69 degrees, meaning that heat would pump all night long. The temperature in the air at 28 degrees had 82% humidity. And what would be the effects of all of this? And I believe those are the key aspects of what I'm going to show you in this video, because as we talk about the cleanup of this crime scene, what most people think about the cleanup is in the living room. However, the biggest question that we've had on our minds in this is how come there is 0 blood trails on the floor in between the rooms? How come we don't see bloody footprints all over this house? And I believe there is a lot of answers to these questions as we really dive into it. But then you add the additional questions of how did all of the blood in the common area become diluted? And I've heard ridiculous theories that can easily be disproven by the actual science of the matter, such as the unaliver ran his hand through liquid on the pong table and slung it all over the walls, not accounting for the fact that there is diluted blood on the door of Xana's room. There is diluted blood found on the switchback stairs. There's diluted blood found all over this residence. So you can easily discard those. But then I hear other scenarios that are equally as absurd, such as somebody wiped the walls. It was an attempted cleanup. Somebody sprayed the walls down and wiped them. Well, that stuff can be easily disproven as well, because if you took something and wiped the walls, then you would smear the blood stains. And we don't see that. It would take a stain that looked like a spatter or cast off stain and turn it into something that looked more like a transfer stain. And that's not something that we see. So that means the explanation must be something else. And I think it's critical to determine the difference between the blood that was diluted found on the walls and the bong table and the obvious areas of cleanup, which were the floors in between the room on the third floor, the room on the second floor, the stairs surrounding Dylan's area in the living room near Xana's room. No blood stains found anywhere. However, we know that the floors were cleaned up because there's direct evidence of that with the L4 footprint that was found just outside of Dylan's door. So what's going on here? How do we figure out the truth from the fiction in the matter? And I'm going to show you how we're going to figure out the truth from the fiction in the matter. And it's something that I brought up before, but now I've got even more evidence to back it up. And the hypothesis is starting to become a certainty as more and more comes out. But then it finally leads us to the real question, which is who cleaned the floors in this house? And that is something that I am getting really close to be able to disclose to you because it's becoming readily apparent to me now. But first, let's talk about all of this moisture on the walls that obviously diluted the blood in a manner to which the blood changed its appearance, changed everything about it. And what could have caused that based on all the evidence that we have now? And I think it's almost a certainty.
Here's the thing about the second floor. Found open when police arrived at noon. I have a photograph that shows the thermostat in the kitchen. It's next to the refrigerator, kind of in the hallway between the fridge and Dylan's room. And it suggests that the thermostat was 69 degrees. It was 68 or 69. It's very hard to tell, but that's what it suggests. At 4 o'clock in the morning, it was 28 degrees. I think it was 82% relative humidity. I can tell. If the thermostat is approximately 12 feet from that open door in a 3-story house, that means that thermostat was running full blast from 4 o'clock in the morning, from 4:17 in the morning, 4:20 in the morning, until police arrived at noon.
While the exterior walls of a home carry significant insulation and the cooling effect would take much longer, the interior walls along, as seen here, walls surrounding the bathroom, the knee wall between the second floor and first floor staircase, and doors such as the hollow core door found on Xana's room would not carry any insulation likely, increasing the quota effect significantly from the exterior wall. The seemingly fresh coat of eggshell paint that is self-sealing seen throughout the house. And finally, the properties of the blood itself.
Cold temperatures and humidity primarily affect blood spatter on a wall by altering its viscosity, impact size, and drying time. While extreme conditions can change the stain's appearance, the core characteristics needed for forensic interpretation, such as directionality and impact angle, generally remain intact. Analyze this scenario. A house that has blood spatter on the wall in a room that is 20 Ds from an open door. The walls are covered in sheetrock with no insulation in the walls. The temperature outside is 28 degrees, and the thermostat is set at 69 degrees and is located with 10 feet of the front door. The natural outside humidity is 82%. In an 8-hour period, what are some results to the blood on the walls due to all of this?
Condensation risk. Outside air at M28. Circa Falls. With 82% humidity is actually quite dry in terms of total water content. Low dew point. However, as this air enters the house and hits the warmer interior, the relative humidity, RH, near the floor and open door will fluctuate. If the sheetrock surface becomes cold enough, reaching the dew point of the indoor air, moisture from the indoor air may condense directly onto the wall or the bloodstains. This could cause the bloodstains to remain tacky, or even remoisten if they had begun to dry. Ironically, blood is hygroscopic, meaning it attracts water. Blood contains salts and electrolytes. These salts may pull water vapor out of the air and into the bloodstain itself. The blood may spread further and more irregularly, creating tails or spines that wouldn't normally be there. If the sheetrock is painted with a sealer, like a semi-gloss, eggshell, or a dedicated primer, it fundamentally changes the battle between the blood and the wall. If the spatter was heavy, large drops, you are much more likely to see downward runners or streaks. On raw sheetrock, these would have soaked in and stopped. On sealed paint, they will slide down the wall, potentially distorting the original impact pattern.
Now, here's the difference between what I call the factions, right? The factions. You see, the factions are guilters. They see everything through the lens of a one-perp crime, and Brian Koberger being able to do all of this all on his own, and they will always try to create evidence around that scenario. And unfortunately for them, it makes them ignore all of the real evidence in the case that goes against that. But then there's the other faction, the faction that wants to create a much bigger scenario than really exists, like a professional cleaning company coming in and cleaning for 8 hours, wiping down walls with liquid to try to erase the evidence of an attack. And then we look at the evidence that doesn't back that up and we get confused. But if we truly look at the evidence in the case and the situations around the case that continue to be verified more and more as new information comes out, it gives us a glimpse into what the truth really is. And it also enables us to focus on the evidence that needs to be focused on and not create conspiracy theories around the evidence that is explainable through the scientific method. Now, when you think about the evidence from, say, the half wall and all of the diluted stains on the half wall, it is almost undeniable now that that was caused due to the ramifications of the temperature, the door being open, the lack of insulation in the walls, the moisture that is actually pulled into that because of the blood's dynamics itself being hygroscopic. It pulls the moisture out of the air and creates just the effect that we see. But there's other stains that also back up that interpretation, such as Xana's door and the fact that that is likely a hollow core laminate door that doesn't have any insulation that would create the same effect. It would just take a little bit longer. Therefore, you don't see quite the extent that you do on the half wall. Then you look at the wall beyond the staircase, marker number 23, that has the same effect, but it hasn't had near the effect as the stains on the wall in between the staircase, the half wall. So the reason for that is easily explainable. It's because that is an insulated wall. You began to see the properties that you see on the half wall, but because that wall was insulated, it didn't create as much of an effect. But then you look at stains like the transfer stain on top of the half wall that was transferred of Ethan's blood, the transfer stain coming down the switchback stairs on the top that was transferred Maddie's blood. You didn't see the dilution effects in these samples because they were on a solid wood surface. The wood itself is an insulator, so it would block the same effects that the other areas would have. Then you look at the pong table where you clearly see there was liquid poured on the pong table. That would account for the dilution on it. But then you have to stop and say, wait a minute, but that does not account for the floors in the home, because that effect would not affect blood on the floors. And with direct evidence of a cleanup on the floors proven by Amido Black pulling back the L4 footprint outside Dylan's door, that tells you that the floors in this home have been cleaned. Then you have to ask yourself two questions. Why and who did that cleaning? And I think as more evidence has come out, it is certainly leading us in the direction to answer those two questions. And that's coming to you soon. But first, please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms. And until next time, Pavarotti is out.